You started a career path and have been grinding away, maybe all the way to the top. But you've decided the career you've dedicated your life to isn't the career you want to dedicate your life to. Now is just the beginning. Starting out or starting fresh. It's time to become the work experience kid. I've got two fears in life. One, holidaying on an island location, a tsunami hits and I get sucked out to sea and lost forever, and then obviously I drown. And selling a car. And there's someone who can do it. Steve Melder. Or more broadly, a buyer's advocate or seller for cars. Steve's one of them. He started out life as a mechanic. He's now found himself into becoming an automotive buyer or seller's advocate. Let's learn a little bit more about what Steve actually does day to day. While we don't have an official sponsor of the pod, I want to promote some projects that our previous guests have been working on. Ed Calishaw is an award-winning broadcaster and he offers the Memory Maker podcast. Now, I can see this as a way to capture the life and stories and memories of a grandparent, but this could be something that you do for the family too. Ed will have a chat and uncover the unique and special stories that'll leave an everlasting memory on your family. And real quick, whilst it's called the Memory Maker podcast, it's not public, you get to choose who hears it. You can listen to Ed's ep to learn more about him, and if you'd like to learn more about the Memory Maker podcast, visit workexperiencekit.com, hit the guests tab, and find Ed Calishaw's name there. Steve, welcome to the Work Experience Kid podcast. Let's start by getting you to tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
At the moment, I'm actually starting off a business as an automotive buyer's advocate, which in short, basically, if you want to buy a car or sell a car, I sort of act as your agent and do all the hard stuff in between, because I know in that space, it's quite a challenge for people trying to do these things on their own. So I offer a service where you give me the car, I deal with all the hard stuff, and then once it's sold, you get the money. Or alternatively, if you're looking for a car, you tell me what you want, I go find it. You don't have to do the running around and waste all your weekends.
Oh, that's amazing. I definitely needed your services a few years ago when I had a Corolla that I didn't know how to sell. Like, I figure you just go in car sales or something and just put it up there and you have to deal with a lot of people. But I just knew that it was a whole lot of work and then I'd have to see all these people and I'll get screwed on price. There's so much work. And I was like, it's devaluing by the second sitting out there on the street. But then one day, a drunk guy or drugged up guy, I'm not too sure, just sped down the street, crashed into my car, wrote it off. I got a nice little payout and I didn't have to do any work. So that was quite nice.
Oh, thank you.
Dude's okay, by the way. But I think your services is a better alternative.
Different sort of service, but, you know, one's sort of questionable legality, but, you know, whatever works.
I want to hear more about you. Did you always want to be a car buyer's, seller's advocate?
I wouldn't say that specifically, but growing up, always into cars, complete car nerd. Doesn't matter what it was, whether it's race cars, four-wheel drives, you know, whatever it is. So I think I always knew I wanted to be in automotive space. But I think later in life, I enjoyed the part of helping people as well, especially with someone with my knowledge in a particular field. I was like, how can I use that to help others? So it's a sort of good service that I think I could provide. And yeah, it's quite interesting at the moment.
Okay, what makes it interesting at the moment?
Talking to a lot of people, they're like, oh, I really want to find a car, but I don't know where to look. I don't know what to do. There's lots of scammers around. I don't know, you know, if I go to a car, I don't know what I'm looking for. So I feel like, okay, well, I'm knowledgeable in this sort of thing. I can help you. Okay, let me know what you're looking for. What are your requirements? You know, you look at having a family. Do you have pets? Do you go camping a lot? And sort of get a general idea. Also, a lot of people get stuck into sort of different brands or cars that they think are good. And then I sort of have to give them the information that they're not that very good, which saves them money in the long run. Saves a lot of heartache.
Definitely. That's really handy, especially because obviously your automotive knowledge. And as you say, there's so many scammers out there. Even mechanics, they're buying and selling cars all the time, but a mechanic is incentivized to sell a car, especially because they've got a car just sitting there taking up space in their workshop.
Correct. Exactly right. So not necessarily for right reasons.
Also, mechanics are notorious for ripping people off and scamming them.
Yes. Unfortunately, a bad reputation in the industry, which is unfortunate.
I feel like it would be a great business model as a mechanic to just be an honest mechanic. Don't rip people off. Don't inflate prices too much. Just do the job that needs to be done and do it right. I could rant about this all day. So You were drawn to being a buyer's advocate because you wanted to help people and wanted to use your experience as a mechanic to place you in a better spot to help people. Was your first job as a mechanic?
Well, I worked at McDonald's in high school, so that was my first job, which doesn't count. That's okay. But my first proper job was working for a European car dealer, BMW. So did a apprenticeship through them, and then spent another 3 years post apprenticeship. So yeah, almost 8 years with that company, I think it was. And then I actually sort of similar mechanical area, but different. I actually did a trade upgrade to become a diesel mechanic. That was working on sort of heavy machinery, moved interstate for that. And then after that, I was working on different sorts of machinery, working for a few different hire companies, working on like industrial equipment, which I specialised in access equipment, which is sort of your elevated work platforms, your scissor lifts, boom lifts, all that sort of stuff. And then full circle came back to cars in COVID when everything sort of shut down. And then that's when I started really considering what I want to do in my future. And this idea has actually been brewing for the last 4 or 5 years, but only in the last 6 months I've jumped in and gone all in with it.
And what made you say, I'm going all in?
I think I really wanted to work for myself. I also saw this niche in a market, and I think it was just a case of me doing the jump. I was lucky to see a good friend of mine do something similar, and I've seen his progression in doing the same thing. So it's been good to see that there is something in it, because he's done really well in the last 3 years. Yeah, I think it was just like, I'm just going to go all in, see what happens, and go from there.
I feel like a lot of people need to go out on their own and do their own thing, especially when they've got an awesome job, because their real job, full-time job, is holding them back so much, but they're just scared of making that jump. So congrats on making that jump. It's obviously working out well because you're still doing it.
Yep.
Do you need a qualification to do this? Like, are other advocates going down this mechanical path?
Interestingly not. I mentioned a friend who's doing it now. He doesn't come from an automotive background at all, actually. Always into cars. It was his interest and hobby, but has no automotive background like at all. But in saying that, I feel like that's where, again, I probably have possibly an advantage in what I'm doing, because I have 20 years of mechanical experience, having worked in dealerships and in different roles and positions and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like I've gained a bit of knowledge in a lot of that stuff. But no, it's not a necessary thing that you need some sort of qualification. So you could get into it straight off the bat, but I feel like I'd have an advantage with that, is having that mechanical experience.
Well, I can see you'd have a definite advantage over everyone else. You know what you're buying. You're a mechanic. You can jump in, take a test drive, or stick your head under the hood to know if anything's going on just at a glance. But I imagine there's a whole bunch of car salesmen that might get into it.
Yeah, for sure. I think so, yeah. Again, they have more of that experience of being able to negotiate deals, and which I don't have that experience. But again, I suppose I have that experience with just buying cars for myself and friends and family, which I've been doing for a long time. But I don't want to be that salesman pushy model either. I want it to be a sort of enjoyable experience, not that stereotypical sales experience. And so that, again, I want to keep it a bit different.
Sure. Like when you're selling a car, is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely, yeah, totally. Or I suppose even buying a car. I suppose there's different ways of negotiating and all that sort of stuff.
So obviously you come from an automotive background. How's your sales negotiation going? I know that I'm not a salesperson. How is it for you? It's
something that I have to work on and learn and progress. It's great that there's sort of heaps of platforms like YouTube, whatever, you can get lots of good information. And then again, having worked with a lot of salesmen in the past, getting different ideas of what they do and how they work on it. But yeah, definitely a work in progress.
Have you ever heard of the book Never Split the Difference?
No, I haven't.
It's a good one. It's written by a CIA or FBI hostage negotiator. And he basically says everyone's human. You can use that emotion to your advantage. You can play on that. You can find a win-win for both of you. For example, if they kidnap your child and they want $1 billion, you don't have $1 billion on you, so you're never going to give them that money. And they go, oh, well, I've got a kid now, I'm going to have to kill it, and they still don't get the money and they've killed somebody. So you can say, hey, maybe we can find a solution here. And finding the solution is the biggest part of negotiation. Anyway, I'm not doing it any justice. Never Split the Difference. You should definitely give it a read.
Cool. I like that.
Because it also helps you across a whole range of areas in your life, not just buying and selling stuff, but just talking to your boss or your family. I don't know. Anyway, it's great.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we know the answer to this question already, but broadly, what do you love about being in this industry that you found yourself in?
Yeah, like I said, always been interested in cars, but I've always been interested in various different cars. So I feel like I can help anybody, but I also get the enjoyment of helping someone out, finding their dream car or selling their car. And it's like, oh, we got so much more than had we just traded it in, or, you know, we didn't know the first thing about advertising it, or we didn't want to deal with people off the street. So it's, yeah, getting a good result, whether it's buying or selling, and seeing the positive effect it has on my clients.
And you've been doing this for a relatively short time, considering you've got a 20-year career in the automotive industry, and you found yourself in this job. What keeps bringing you back into the advocate life every day? Is it driving those new cool cars, or?
Not necessarily, no, because I mean, I do a lot of different things, old cars, new cars, whatever it is. It's almost like once I get a client, I actually like that initial meeting of being like, if they're buying, what are we looking for? And then it's like this almost excitement of like, all right, cool, I need to go on a hunt. And then sort of jumping on Marketplace, jumping on car sales, calling around, doing some inquiries. And it's almost like a big dopamine hit. I'm energized, like, let's find something.
I think that buzz is a good indicator that you're in the job that you need to be in. A lot of people don't have that buzz, even though they're in an industry they love. Like, did you have that feeling when you were working as a mechanic?
Not as much, no. Yeah, I think the buzz I got out of being a mechanic was probably what you're referring to before. It was like driving the nice cars and all that sort of stuff, but it's not as enjoyable. It sort of gets a bit monotonous at times. Again, working for someone else versus yourself, there's a bit more.
You have more drive to perform.
Correct, yeah.
I think people would be very happy to work with you because you're clearly passionate about what you're doing. You're knowledgeable as well. It's something that I'd love to explore, not necessarily with you, but throughout the Work Experience Kid podcast, to explore that buzz that people get. Because people are stuck doing their full-time jobs because it's the standard job. Like, you became a mechanic because what else can you do out of school? You can love cars and become a mechanic or start selling them. But what else do you do in the automotive industry? But it took you to be a mechanic, learn what you like, what you don't like, and then find yourself in a job that you've essentially made up for yourself. It exists as a job out there, but not many people are doing it. And you've taken what you love and now you're doing it. And that's what I love about people following their passions and going out there and doing it. Now, over the years, have you got any standout memories? And not necessarily as an advocate, but in general?
Actually, like consistently over the time from when I actually stopped full-time work and went all in, all my experiences, whether it's been buying or selling, have all been really positive, which is really, really good. I'm happy to obviously experience negative sides of it to learn and all that sort of stuff. It's been quite interesting that it's always been a positive experience. Even one recently where actually it's the first time I've actually never met my clients. Had a video call, exchanged lots of messages and all that sort of stuff, but ended up finding them a car after looking at, I think, about 4 or 5 different of the same model. But I'm like, no, I want to find you the perfect car. And then I found them a car at a dealership, and then I said, hey, you guys go pick it up the next day. That day I was sort of waiting, hoping. I'm like, oh, I hope it all goes well, all that sort of stuff. And literally got a message, and all it was a photo of him and his partner standing next to the car with a ribbon. And he's like, mate, couldn't be more happy. And I'm like, that's what, gets me going.
Amazing. In that example, you look at 4 or 5 cars. Are they all good, but just not the right one?
No. Well, ones that I think they looked good in pictures, and then I went and looked at it, and I said, for what they're advertised for, I know I can find better. Because it was a fairly new car, it's about sort of 6 or 7 years old. I'm like, there's a lot of damage on it. You can tell a car by the condition, the way it's been treated. And I'm like, I would prefer, if you guys could give me a bit more time, to find the right car. I know that there's 10 others that we can go look at, and we'll find the right one. And in the end, found the right one.
Because, yeah, that's a whole lot of work that I cannot see myself doing. I'd be doing like 2 checks and tapping out.
And unfortunately, in my experience, I've had people where they're like, they've in the past, say, paid for a car to get inspected by, the different services that do that. They've paid, say, twice, got a bad report, and then the third time, like, you know what, I'm sick of paying this money, I'll just buy it. And then the car, it turns out to be a lemon. And it's like, the unfortunate part, they spend thousands to fix it or whatever it is. And that's where I'm like, my service is good because I'll go look at these cars for you. And even if it takes 10 cars to find you the right one, so be it, because we'll find the right one. You won't have any dramas.
You don't have to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but like, are you charging a percentage of the car or a finder's fee? Or
at the moment, I'm just charging a set fee for both services. But I think I need to sort of rejig that, especially for car values. It's hard to charge someone that's trying to sell a $5,000 car the same amount that, say, trying to sell a $100,000 car. Sure. So that's still in the works at the moment.
Well, I guess the clients will end up helping you figure that out. They'll pay it or they won't pay it, then you tweak it as you need to. So we've gone from standout memories, helping a client find a car and feeling those good feels that you got that picture with them next to it. Do you have any spectacular failures?
Failures. The only one I can think of is I had a client that saw the car, sort of said what it needs, gave him a bit of a scope of what I do. But then for them, it was a bit of a tough one because they wanted to get quite involved in the process, which is like, you're paying my service for me to do this. And then in the end, I'm like, maybe you should just sell it yourself because I feel like you probably don't need my services in that sense. And so it sort of went back and forth a bit. And in the end, I returned the car to them. But yeah, that was probably the only one that I was like, okay. And it was a good experience for me because I learned a lot out of that. But yeah, that's probably the only one that I'm like, that sort of stands out in the recent history.
You learn so much from those things. That was more of a conversation that you needed to have when you're starting out. I think everyone has that kind of conversation.
Absolutely.
So if I'm selling my car, let's say my Corolla is still intact and I need you to sell it. I would give you the car, you house it, I never see it again. One day it sells and then you just give me the money.
Yep.
Awesome.
Ideally, that's how it'd work. That's a lot easier for me. Sometimes it may not be viable because you're still using the car every day. It does make it more difficult. Doesn't mean that it's not plausible to do. I do actually offer my personal vehicle. So if someone needs a car, I'm happy for you to use it while I sell your car. But yeah, ideally, I'd like to have the car in my possession because then I can look over the car, inspect it, clean it, and then I can store it. Then when people come, I can get them to come to my place or, meet them somewhere mutual and they can view the car.
Well, that makes sense. It all makes sense, but I've never thought about it. Obviously, you love this job that you found yourself in. But what don't you like about it?
Right now, I'm still in the process of finding a factory to work out of. So at the moment, I'm still working from home, which brings about its challenges, especially for vehicle storage. So that's probably my biggest gripe at the moment. But in general, I think it can be a very market-dependent job. So for example, if cars are selling high, then it's great, but on one side, but it's not great on the other. Same thing if the market's low, great for one side, not great for the other. So it's about managing people's expectations, which sometimes probably can be difficult as well. They might look at, for example, they've got a Corolla for sale, or they want to sell. They're like, oh, they're advertised for 20 grand. And I'm like, advertised price and what they sell for are two different things. And so it's managing expectations because I'll give a realistic approach. You might be looking maybe 16, 17, 18. They're like, oh, but they're advertised for 20. And I said, it's about getting the right information at the start and not giving them a pipe dream of something I can't achieve.
And they're obviously seeing what the prices are listed as, the full price, and they think they can get that. But really, no one ever pays full price for a vehicle. So I can see why they're thinking that when they're selling. Always when you're selling, never when you're buying. Oh, we're never going to pay full price for a car. Steve, so far you've taught me a lot about what a buyer's advocate does in the automotive space. I want to learn how to do your job and see if I can do it myself. But first I want to remind listeners of Ed Calishaw's business. I spoke about it at the top. Something I didn't mention was how the Memory Maker podcast can complement other memories from someone's life. You've got old photos and probably plenty of new photos and videos, but what they don't capture is a life story told through the eyes or the mouth of the person who was there. Now, you might have heard of Pop tell the same story over and over and over and over again, but when he passes, you'll be glad that you can turn on the Memory Maker podcast and hear him tell that story over and over and over and over again in his voice, in his words. And the best bit is, it is a great interviewer, so he might even be able to draw out a story that no one has ever heard before. I wonder how many unsolved crimes might be solved with this project. not sure Ed wants me to promote that bit. It's the Memory Maker podcast with Ed Calishaw. To find out more and get involved, visit the guests tab at workexperiencekid.com. Now, Steve, do I have what it takes to do your job?
Sure.
What does your day or maybe even week look like?
Interestingly, a lot of the work actually is probably on the weekend, especially if I'm selling cars. A lot of people can't get to myself until the weekend. A lot of people, let's say, want to sell their car, again, busy with work, all that sort of stuff, which is partly why they use my service. They don't have the time to do this sort of stuff. So a lot of weekend work, which is fine. During the week, what I'd like to do, especially if I have a car that I'm selling, I'd like to inspect the vehicle, get a quote done, any repairs that it needs, then I can get the repairs done. During the week is prepping cars, and also, yeah, some people do come in the evenings, so just getting cars cleaned and prepared so people can come and look at them, all that sort of stuff. If I am buying a car, then weeks are good because usually other people can't get to cars over the weekend, so I try to push to go during the week. Means that I get first dibs on cars that people may not be able to look at over the weekend. So that's another advantage of what I do. So just a lot of running around, to be honest.
You'll need to have a nice, reliable car. At least you can work on that to make sure it does run. Although mechanics have that reputation of having a car that never works.
Yes.
Isn't that a thing where every mechanic has a car that doesn't work?
Well, I don't know. Look, yeah, no, I don't know. And again, I feel like it's yes, stereotypically yes. I feel like I try to be a bit different, and both of my cars are very, very old and probably should have gone to the wreckers, and they both work perfectly.
Lovely. Well, you're a good person to have looking over cars. So run me through your primary responsibilities and your duties.
Sure.
I'll list a couple that you've listed so far. You're scouring the internet dealerships for the vehicle that you need to find. You're working as a mechanic where you need to. You're detailing or cleaning where you need to. You're running about inspecting cars. You're showing people around the cars. You're also doing some of the marketing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so advertising, marketing, so all the photography. So yeah, basically photograph the car, write the ad, use as many free platforms as possible. With certain types of cars, I do use car sales. It is a paid platform and is getting more expensive as time goes on. And then write a detailed ad as well. So give as much information as possible in the car.
And I feel like I know the answer to this from what you've said already, but if I want to get into the industry, I want to know if I can do it for a while. So do you think being an advocate has a strong future?
I think so, absolutely. As more people become time poor, a lot of people don't have the time to do this sort of stuff. Granted, originally why I started is because a lot of people would approach me just from my mechanical background. It's like, hey, I'm looking for a car. Can you help me out? And to be fair, many, many years ago, I'll do it on a weekend for a free meal. And I'm like, I'm doing this too often for it not to, how can I monetize this somehow, I suppose? But I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed doing it. But it's the more and more people that approached me for help, I'm like, there's something that, like, a service I can offer that could help people. And one, I'd enjoy it. And two, it could be a really good business.
Oh, I agree. Definitely has a strong future. And it's so good to hear all the work you've put in and it's paying off now, doing it full time. Have you received any valuable advice? Not necessarily as an advocate, but just in life?
I mean, specifically in what I do, again, a good friend of mine has been doing it for a number of years. And so he's been really helpful with advice and also just watching his progression. That's good knowing that there is a future seeing what he's doing. General life advice, I mean, my parents, especially my mum, was just like, do whatever makes you happy. A lot of people do mention, do something you're passionate about, because if you try and just chase a financial thing, it doesn't seem to work out as often. If you do something you're passionate about, the money will come because people will see the passion.
It's so hard. And this is something that I've found as well, but speaking to different people, part of the podcast, who aren't necessarily on the podcast, but talk to me about it, it's so difficult to split the money and the passion. Because if you follow the passion, the money will come, but you need money to survive. So mentally, it's hard to go, I will forget about money and I'm going to focus on a job that I'm so passionate about. It's completely opposite to what we've been taught.
If I have a bone to pick, there's a lot that can be taught in schools. Schools sort of help with certain careers, but I feel like if they could also teach about following your passions, but also showing that it can be marketable as a job. That's something that I don't know. It may have changed now, but I know my time in school, it was sort of, I think you mentioned it earlier. It's like, oh, okay, you like cars, you could be a mechanic or a salesman. There's so many other avenues that you could pursue, but it's not really shown. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, and in all sort of careers, there's definitely niche areas of something that you like that you could do and be good at it and enjoy it and be financially viable too.
Totally. I really want to get a careers counsellor or advisor or school counsellor on, because unfortunately I've heard negative experiences and I want to know a little bit more about what they do. I want to even hear positive experiences because I know that they exist and they do a good job, because otherwise they wouldn't be in business. But I'm also nervous that by saying this, a careers counsellor or coach wouldn't want to come on the pod.
And potentially, are they being limited by the education system? Who knows? They might have a good reason for.
Well, my thinking is that a careers teacher has a KPI to get kids into uni or TAFE, because parents choose the school based on how successful their kid will be, and obviously success equals further education. That's my take on it anyway. All right, so follow your passion. I want to become an advocate. What advice would you give to me?
Sure. Definitely being aware of the market. Have a first meeting with your client, especially if they want to buy a car. Because sometimes, I mean, granted, if I just wanted to make money, if a client came up to me and said, I want this car, I'll be like, yep, I'll go find it for you. But what I like to do is like, why do you want that car? These are the issues I find if you bought this certain car. It may be expensive to run, it may not be reliable, all sorts of things. And then I sort of work out, okay, what do you use the car for? Right, asking the right questions so they get the right car for them.
We were talking before we started about a particular car, which is horrible to drive on a freeway, especially when it's windy. It's good off-road though. And I know that I shouldn't get this car as a responsible person. And I'm not going to get this car unless the podcast pops off and I have a whole lot of money to spend, or maybe the car company just gives me the car. But it's good to have an expert opinion to know if this car is right. Especially all the questions you're asking: what do you do on the weekends? Do you have a family? Are you a surfer? Or like, do you do construction? And you see those middle-aged men at Bunnings, they've jousting with long pieces of wood through the back window and the front window.
The amount of people that go, oh, okay, I want a big four-wheel drive because we plan on doing this one big trip a year. I'm like, okay, but you do realize the downfalls of owning a four-wheel drive for the 99% of the time you do use it otherwise. You know, bad on fuel, hard to park. Is there a consideration that you could maybe fly somewhere? Could you rent a four-wheel drive for your trip? A lot of people look at a small percentage of what they want the car to do without realizing the drawbacks of the 95% that they would use it for.
And sometimes you just need someone to tell you it's a bad idea.
All part of the service.
You're obviously now in a good spot to evolve your services, but if you were starting out again, would you do anything different?
I think one consideration I didn't take into was space, and I think I would have potentially invested into a factory before starting into it. I did run the numbers with a good friend of mine about doing that prior to leaving my full-time job, and he did explain not to do it. But now that I look at it, I feel like I'm a little bit behind the eight ball with not having a space to do this stuff, because I know that this could be a very, very viable business, but I haven't pushed it hard enough because I literally don't have the space to accommodate a lot of cars at the moment. So I think having a space to do it in is very, very beneficial to this business.
All right. Looks like you're going to have to find a space.
Correct. Yep. My next goal.
We'll have to find you a commercial buyer's advocate, or...
Yes. Commercial real estate buyer's advocates, get in touch.
I want to get into this job. What would you ask to see if I'm suited to being an advocate?
Okay, I want to sell my car. How can you help me rather than me selling it myself?
Well, okay, that's a good question, because obviously you want to distill if that person has the drive to do all the admin, all of the running about, obviously all of the knowledge as well, but the drive to do everything that's involved.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's a common theme for the pod so far, Steve. Now, this is the Work Experience Kid podcast, and the whole point of it is for me to give different jobs across different industries to go to see if I'm suited to it. Obviously, there's that question which has got my cogs turning, but practically, is there a task that you can set me so I can give being an advocate a go and we can unpack my skills in the trial episode next?
I reckon I could accommodate you. So I've always got cars coming in to sell. I reckon you could write an ad for me.
Oh yeah, I can write an ad for you. I guess you're tapping into my advertising experience. The worst part is, though, I absolutely hate it when my work is on trial. Like, we're inspecting it, and you'll go, yeah, this is good or bad. I would rather write an ad for a multi-million-dollar business, multinational business, and not have somebody inspect it. Just the feedback comes back, yes, no, maybe, make some tweaks. And then I've never written a classified ad before.
Oh, look, I think you'll be fine. And look, I can give you examples of what I've written in the past. It will be more so the mechanical sides of things that I might have to edit here and there. But I reckon, honestly, with your background, you'll have no issue making it an exciting and interesting ad for people.
As always, I'm a little nervous about it, especially because my entire career and life so far is being put under the microscope.
I think you'll be fine. Look, I won't let you sit any medical tests, so I think you'll do all right.
Well, thanks for your confidence. I'm not feeling super confident just yet, but maybe that'll come when I get my hands dirty. You can hear how I go in the trial episode that will appear after this very one. If you want to contribute, you can always visit the website workexperiencekid.com. Of course, if you want to sponsor the pod or support the pod in other ways, again, workexperiencekid.com. And remember, if you want to get Steve to buy or sell your car, I mean, you've heard a whole episode, a whole chat with Steve. And if you like the cut of his jib and the passion and his knowledge, visit the Work Experience Kid website, hit the guest tab, find Steve's name, and click through via the button. Contact Steve, get him to buy or sell your car on your behalf. Again, that's through the website, workexperiencekid.com.